I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Kaylee, and this is
Shoot the Vows. Today we have a special guest. We have Keri Klein with Flower City's Ceremonies, and you guys do wedding officiating. So do a little intro for us.
Sure. So I'm the owner of Flower City Ceremonies, and we custom write all our ceremonies because your love story isn't cookie cutter. Your ceremony shouldn't be either.
Awesome.
I love that so much.
Yeah, and I think that the ceremony is like the heart of the day. Like it's why they're there, right? I mean, the reception is fun, and the pictures before and after and all that are fun. But like your ceremony is very special.
Yes.
And it's the beginning of your marriage, right? So
without us, it's just a very expensive party.
I mean, that is what it is. So.
That is a good point. So tell me a little bit about, you said not cookie cutter. You guys do it all custom writing. So you meet with the couples beforehand, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit about like what that looks like and what are some questions you ask?
Sure. So I love not giving them a heads up on the questions. I want to get their initial gut reaction. They can go back and add to it later, but I like to just see how they
roll.
Yeah. So I asked them, how they met, of course. That's important. I asked them to tell me about the proposal. And then I really put them on the spot and asked them what they love about each other. And it's great where you see them just dive right in. Mm-hmm. I get a little nervous when I have couples that are like, like, you should love each other. You're getting married.
Well, he's attractive. He has a lot of money.
Yes, goodness. And then, after that, once they book, I send them a questionnaire and it dives deeper into that. How did you know that this was the one? When did you know that you were in love? Are there any, funny stories that you want to share that you'd like me to include? Things like that.
Okay. Yeah, I've definitely seen some really special stuff happen at wedding ceremonies. For our wedding ceremony, we got married in a Methodist church. So we actually met with the pastor beforehand, and he asked us a lot of questions, almost like grilling in a good way. And because it is a serious undertaking. Yeah. Like marriage is not, unfortunately, our society today, a lot of people don't take it as seriously as it is, but it's a serious undertaking to marry somebody, and there's a lot involved in that. So there were a lot of things that we took a step back and like questions we hadn't even thought of or asked each other about, like our future, family, stuff like that, how we want to raise our children, do we want to have children, all that stuff. So we did all that before the wedding ceremony.
I hope you'd have that conversation before
well,
before
you'd
the
be
question
surprised.
gets popped.
A lot of people don't consider, obviously they consider, do we want kids and stuff like that, but there's a lot of things that, like, how were you raised that you want to bring into how you raise kids? How were you raised that you don't want to bring into how you raise your children? And like, there's a lot of questions that I hadn't even asked myself, let alone talked with him about. So it's a little deeper than just wedding ceremonies, but
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? So we did talk about that. But one of the things that I had said to my husband, now husband, was, when the pastor was asking us, I said, he's like the opposite of me, but in the best ways, right? Like when I'm all like crazy and I'm very high strung, he's like the rock, he's like immovable. He's very patient. He's very logical when I'm very, last minute and like spontaneous. And like, so, I said, he's the yin to my yang. And during the wedding ceremony itself, the pastor was saying some stuff about us as a couple, and he had brought that up, and that actually had like moved me to tears during the ceremony. I still remember that, and it still holds meaning to me to this day, because I think about that, and like when I said that, I really meant it. Like that is the most beautiful thing about our relationship, and the fact that he tied that into the ceremony was so special.
Well, that's why they meet with their clients beforehand,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If your officiant's not, you got a problem.
Yeah. Well, anyone could just show up and be like, you're married.
Surprise.
Yeah. We have a lot of people that are using their chosen person, friend, family member. And that's great. They've known them definitely longer than I have.
Yeah.
But, and that's the big but, because I started off that way too, officiating for a friend. But I think that not everyone is a poised speaker and can put together a beautiful ceremony.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to Google or use ChatGPT to write your ceremony.
Yeah. If it's somebody that's like maybe good at public speaking or somebody, just being close with the person is not enough to really qualify them as a good officiant for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And there's some professionals I've seen that I'm like, maybe they should have used a friend or family.
Oh my gosh. Horror story 101.
Well, I mean, one of them, the couple had reached out to us a couple weeks after the wedding and they said, hey, our officiant lost our vows. Have you seen them at all? Do you remember seeing them on the wedding day? And I was like, oh no.
Is this the same one that was talking about the naked people?
Yeah.
That same officiate? Oh yeah, horror story.
Oh no, that was a different one. That was a different one.
Okay, but they were like close.
Doozies.
She was talking about a couple before that she had, like during the wedding, like during the ceremony, was actively talking about like how she's done plenty of weddings before, which I don't think you need to know that at a wedding, but she was telling everybody about it, and she was talking about how one couple came to her and they had come and like went through multiple officiants trying to find one, and it was because they were all going to be nude at the wedding.
Oh my god!
And they didn't tell the officiant.
But they were like, she was like telling this story during the wedding ceremony.
Like actually, yeah.
Like in another couple's ceremony.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
She's like sharing the story, and we're all like, so anyways,
I remember
congrats,
putting the video in. I was like, what was the point in that? Like I cut out the whole beginning. Like. Yeah. A little horror story from our end.
That was not the officiant that lost the vows. That was another officiant.
No.
That officiant, we weren't sure if she was even going to show up on time. That happens a lot.
Oh gosh.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a couple of DJs that I know locally that are ordained for that reason, because it's alarming how many officiants just like don't show up, or they don't show up on time, or they're like, you know, it's 3 minutes of and they're rolling in. I'm like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, these are like paid professionals.
Right.
So look at reviews. We say that with every vendor that you're looking at. Look at reviews.
And there should be a contract, you know,
absolutely.
Whether the couple works with me or my two employees on my team, we have a contract, and that protects them and us. And I don't know why you wouldn't sign one. And we always make sure that we get there at least half an hour before, so that the couple isn't panicking.
Worried.
Yeah. Because that's scary.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
You know,
even if they do show up on time, it's like you don't want to be wondering on your wedding day.
We're gonna add a coordinator to our team just in case something like this happens. They're gonna be ordained, and they're gonna be able to coordinate everything like that. Got problems, they'll show up.
I know, right?
Make our assistant start doing it. Sorry, moments captured CMY like talk right here, but it's always not a great idea. Have the assistant that comes with us be ordained and have like just coordinating skills.
Well, yeah, because I've thought about doing that. I'm like, just in case, but I'm like, I can't take pictures and like marry them. Right. So yeah,
but our assistant could.
Sorry.
So anyways, getting back to it, I think that what you guys talk about before the ceremony can definitely impact the actual ceremony, and so you tie in what you guys talk about and a little bit of their personalities, stuff like that.
Yes, and they can make as many corrections or additions that they want. So if we meet and they decide, you know, we don't want to do a reading, but then their mom is upset that they're not having one, or somebody else is upset, we can always add things like that in, or take things out that they thought they might want, but realize like, oh, I'm going to get nervous. I don't want to do that, or I don't want to do my vows in front of everyone. That's a big trend that's happening right now.
I love the private vows.
Yes, I love it too, where they do their first look and the vows.
My favorite.
I think it's amazing.
It's so sweet too, because it's like they get that like release before walking down the aisle, before having to see everybody. Like it's all that build up, you know, now you can enjoy it and remember your ceremony.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's very intimate, I think, when it's just you and, I mean, of course your photographer is there and your videographer if you have one, but I think just sharing from your heart, that's a lot of pressure in front of all your guests.
Yeah, I think that being up in front of everybody for me definitely took away a lot of the emotion, because I was just like a deer in headlights, you know, stage fright, which is funny because I'm not a person that, like, we're sitting here talking in front of 3 cameras. Like, I'm not a person that's really afraid to talk in front of people usually. but being on an actual stage in front of 100 people just hits
all
different.
eyeballs on you. Like, it's different. It's different
Yeah.
when you got a room full of people staring and looking at you. Like, if this
Yeah.
room was full of people instead of cameras, whoo, I wouldn't say 2 words.
You're very vulnerable, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I always tell my couples is that I'm not there just to deliver your ceremony, but I'm there to protect you and make sure that you feel okay as things are going. And I do a lot of nonverbal check-ins with the couples during the ceremony just to make sure that they're okay, they're feeling confident about what they're doing. And I always remind them too, as you're coming down the aisle, it doesn't matter. Like, nothing else matters. Is when you see your person, everything
Yeah.
else kind of fades
You're
away.
gonna
Yeah.
tunnel vision in.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have like a favorite like story of a client that you've had, or a favorite like
Oh gosh.
anything spectacular that's happened that you're like, I wish more people would do this?
That's so hard. I love all my couples. I think in real life, I'm an English teacher. And when I've had a few of my former students ask me to officiate for them,
Aw.
that is always kind of the top of the
Aw,
list
That's
for
so
me.
sweet.
Yeah.
I remember I loved my English teacher in high school. Oh my God, she was my favorite. Well, she was also an art teacher too. So like I could only imagine how like sweet that is, like being able to come back to them and see them again. And
Yeah. One couple, Samantha and Greg, I saw them as best friends and then flirt and become boyfriend and girlfriend
literally
and
saw the
fall
whole
in love.
stage. Aw.
And everything, all of it. And so when she called me at the time they were living in Chicago, she called me. I was actually on my way out the door to another ceremony, and she said, I have a question for you. And I said, yeah. And she said, will you officiate my ceremony? And I lost it.
Aww.
You know, I rarely cry. I usually keep it together because I think of it as a job. You know, my goal is to be the professional in the situation. And I lost it. I was like, oh man, I got to fix my makeup before I go.
That
Oh,
is
I
really
love
sweet
that.
Yeah.
to like watch the entire.
Process.
Yes.
Literally.
Yeah.
Oh.
So there's also some like special things you can do during the wedding ceremony. Like I've seen where they add sand to something and then they like use that as like decor in their homes, something to always remind them. My friend actually did that. Remember Margot? And her daughter had like, so all 3 of them, they had added sand. The 3 of it was really sweet.
My
And her
dad
daughter
did
was
that
crying.
whenever he got married to my stepmom. So it was they did it first, and then me and my stepsister went, and then my sister and my stepbrother, then they went. So it had all 4 like
Aw.
so it
That's
had
really
them 2
special.
and us kids. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can also do the hand fasting. Is that what it's called? Hand fasting. Obviously there's readings and stuff.
You know the Irish tradition where you jump over or you step over the broom together?
No.
There's a like it's a small little broom. It's probably about this big. It's a little like wooden stick broom, and the couple like they do like the ribbon where they tie their hands with the ribbon, and then afterwards they go and walk down the aisle. They step over the broom together, and it's the first like challenge of the marriage that they do together.
Oh.
It's also a big part of African American culture to
Really?
jump the broom. Yep.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then
it's
you hang
really
up the
cool.
broom in your
Yeah.
house. Yeah. Traditionally it's over the door, but
Wow.
Yeah.
You learn something new every day.
But because we custom write, we can do anything. I had one couple, again, a former student, and she and her now husband would go to different bars when they were dating, and they loved having like a drink and talking and closing down the place. But the only cocktail that they both liked was a margarita, and so we did a margarita ceremony in the middle of their.
I
Oh,
love
wow.
that.
Ceremony.
That's my kind of
I
ceremony.
was gonna say I could see Kaylee doing that.
Yeah, it was awesome. You know, talking about the bitter and the sweet with the salt and the triple sec, and you know, working together to make the drink. You know, all of those things was really lovely.
That's cool.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen anything like that.
It's so cool how many different, I always say this, like how many different ways you can get married. Like you can
Oh,
make your
yeah.
wedding as unique
or
and
as traditional as
yes.
possible.
Yeah, you can make it so like you know, and speak to
Absolutely.
you guys and your relationship. So
You can trash all of the traditions. Like you don't have to keep any of them. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And that's the best part about it is like, yes, you can do what, you know, mom or dad did, but you can also include what you did also. So you kind of make new traditions for your next
Absolutely.
set of family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have couples that always ask me, well, what do people normally do? And I said, that doesn't matter. It's your ceremony. You
what
can do
you
whatever you
want.
want.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. So, what are some things that you tell couples like, what would you tell couples that are watching? I mean, not all of our couples that are watching are local. So, if they're looking for an officiant and they're local, obviously they're going to come to you. But if they're not local, then what advice would you give them as far as like scouting for an officiant that's not going to lose their vows or forget to show up?
Yes. So I would ask them, check their reviews first, but ask them, how long they have been officiating for, what got them into it. I think that's always really important to know the why. I think that you should ask what happens if there's an emergency, because a lot of people think, oh, it's just smooth sailing. But what happens? I had to call in backup because I had COVID. And I had no voice. And I said, there's no way.
I can't do it.
There's no way. So, I have 2 people on my team, but I also have a network of other officiants that I could reach out to should I need them. You want to make sure that there's backup so that somebody doesn't just not show up.
Yeah. That's terrible.
Yes. I would have a contract. If they say, oh, I don't use contracts, then you make one. And there's plenty of those online. Find one and do that to protect yourself, because you're paying so much money for your wedding. Even if you have a really intimate small guest list, you're still spending a lot of money on that experience. And to not have your officiant show up is really awful.
It's terrible. Yeah. I haven't heard any stories of they just didn't show up at all and there was no officiant on hand. But I have heard stories of the DJ that I was talking about where the officiant just didn't show up and he was like, I'm ordained, and he literally married them off the cuff, with no
script.
No script,
Wow.
no preparation, nothing. I mean, that's terrible. So,
which, I mean, at least he knew a little bit about the couple, being that he's the DJ. I'm sure that he got a lot of information and knowledge from that, but still,
not everybody can wing it like
that.
Yeah.
I wonder how many times he had to wing it before he got good at it.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Yeah.
So definitely look at reviews, make sure they have a contract, ask them if they have an emergency backup.
So let me ask you if you have any advice for couples, even if it's not, any advice. What would be your number one advice that you would give to couples?
I think take a 5-minute pause before you say something. As you get going in your relationship, couples fight. It happens. You're not always going to be lovey-dovey. That's just the reality of any relationship, friends or otherwise. But take 5 minutes or 5 seconds before you respond, because I think sometimes we respond out of anger or frustration, emotion, and then you can't take those words back. But if you give yourself on TV where you have the 7-second delay, it allows you to I think check in with yourself and, am I really angry about this, or am I piling on other things as well?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's okay to go to bed angry. They always say don't go to bed angry, but I think sometimes you can't switch off the feelings, and it's okay to go to bed angry, but it is important that you don't let it don't not talk about it.
Right. Don't let it progressively build and build and build.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Communication is the hugest part.
For sure.
Awesome. Did you have anything else about wedding ceremonies?
So we also offer coaching.
Ooh. What does that look like?
So coaching works a couple of different ways. We can help write the ceremony. So if you have somebody that is great at speaking, but they're not so great with the words, we can help with that. We can also, if you have somebody that's really comfortable with writing, but not so comfortable getting up in front of everybody, we can coach them on that. Or we can do all of that. So it's really as little or as much as you need.
Okay,
Wow.
so they don't want to hire you. They're like, I love my uncle. I want him to marry us, but he's terrible at talking in front of the people. So you'll help him
Absolutely.
to become the best officiant for their
even
wedding. that he
Another
can be.
really great example is, I know in the last episode we talked about like what we would do for our weddings. And I said that I would have my dad do it because my dad is ordained and he has done a couple weddings, but it would be great for him to have the professional skill behind him too.
Absolutely. We also make sure that they know how to sign the marriage license. I've gotten many a phone call from my friends that are planners that are like, hey, they didn't have so-and-so sign it. Can you help us out?
Oh.
Yeah. So you want to
no.
make sure everything is filled out correctly because the town or city clerk will send it back. And then
What do you do in that situation?
you have to reapply all over again. So it's not a big deal, but it costs you more money and it's more time and it's not going to have your true anniversary date on there.
That's annoying.
It is
Yeah, it
annoying.
is.
Yeah. I've had couples forget to get it and I've had couples forget to bring it. And I always offer to volunteer, like, I'll meet up with you at a coffee shop so I can sign it for you. Because I would hate for them to not legally be married.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I had one bride though. She was a little bit of a bridezilla. She made her groom leave the reception to go get the marriage license because she was adamant that it had to be signed and dated on that particular day. So she made her own husband.
She couldn't have
leave.
someone else go.
That's what, yeah.
I think she tried and they couldn't find it, so she sent him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. So, what's your take on cell phones during the ceremony? What do you do to make sure people don't, or do you, I mean, obviously it's up to the couple. If they
Right.
don't care, then of course you're not going to care. But if, what do you usually do?
So there's two ways that I usually handle it, and I always ask the couple what they would like. One is just making an announcement about an unplugged ceremony. I personally hate having the cell phones out. I think it looks really bad when in their pictures and videos to see somebody
Yeah.
like this in the aisle. I'm sure you agree as photographers.
Especially in the aisle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's obnoxious.
It is.
So I'll make the announcement. Even if they have signage, I think it's important to announce it because some people are like, oh, well, it's for everybody but me.
Or they just don't look at it.
Or they don't look at
Yeah.
it or it doesn't register.
Yeah.
Maybe they just didn't read it.
Yeah.
Like, let's
No,
be honest.
serious.
Like,
Yeah, they just walk by it.
Yeah.
They just walk by it. And then the other way is a social media minute. And so I invite everyone to take out their cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that I'm going to step out of the way, get all the photos you want of this couple in the next like 30 seconds or minute or whatever. And then afterwards, I ask them to make sure they're silenced and put away. So everybody gets that photo. They don't feel like they're denied.
We
Yeah.
love that. We've
That's
had
my
that happen.
favorite.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
our favorite.
Because I feel like everybody's happy. The guests
Yes.
are happy. The couple's happy. The photographers and videographers are happy.
Yes.
Everybody's happy. And, that way the phones go away afterwards.
Well, and again, everybody gets their minute. Everybody
Yes.
gets their look, to add it to their story right after the ceremony, you know.
Yes.
And that's all they want nowadays, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up everything that we had about wedding ceremonies.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think we learned a lot of great advice about ordaining. And if you need any training, let her know. Anyway, if you have any topic requests, drop them down below in the comments. You know the routine.
Subscribe.
Bye.